Hey kiddos, what we are going to be tackling over the next 2 weeks is one of my favorite topics that we do in reading. It is character traits. So I want you to stop and I want you to think, what are character traits? This morning, I had you do a check-in and it asked you things like, what are physical traits? What are emotional traits? What are characters? And those are all questions that we are going to answer in our mini lesson today. So today is day 1 of character traits, okay? And this is going to be our goal. Now, it is going to be 2 weeks digging into this goal, and then that last piece down there, that motivation piece, that's going to be something that we really focus on really for the rest of the 9 weeks, is tackling why do characters do things. So this is our goal. It says, I will be able to describe and analyze character traits, motivations, and changes. So this is 3 things here. We're going to be able to analyze a character trait, okay, which we're going to tackle in a few minutes and talk about what character traits are. We're going to be able to talk about their motivation, and that's the why did they act that way? Why did they say those things? Why are they feeling that way? What's making them make these choices? It's the why. And then the changes. And we know what a change is. And characters, guys, in most stories that we read, characters are going to change from the beginning to the end. And so we're going to see how is our character in the beginning of the book or the story or the article that we're reading, and how are they at the end. Okay, so that's what we're going to tackle over the next 2 weeks. And you see these 3 questions down here. It says, what does describe mean? What does analyze mean? And what does motivation mean? Now, I've already kind of told you what motivation means, right? Motivation is the why. But I want you to take a second and I want you to ask yourself, what does it mean to describe? And what does it mean to analyze? So I want you to think. Okay, pause this video if you need to. All right, when we talk about describing something, we're telling about it. Okay, so we might be telling about how a character is thinking, acting, feeling, and speaking, or we might be talking about what they look like. When we analyze, this is a term that we should know. We've tackled this all year long. Hands are flat. We break it into parts and look at it closely. That is what analyze means, okay? So these are the 2 skills that we're going to have to know before we can talk about characters. And if I want you to notice, these are the very first 2 skills that I taught us at the beginning of 4th grade. And it's because they are 2 of the most important skills, and they are the foundation for almost everything that we do in reading, okay? So we need to be able to make inferences. And we know an inference is making a guess, okay? And so we're talking about clues in the text, what I know, put it together to make an inference, okay? And then we know text evidence is word for word, exactly what the author put into the passage. And we're using text evidence today to prove that that's how the character is thinking or feeling or acting or speaking, or prove that's what the character looks like. Okay, we're making inferences to make guesses about how a character is thinking, acting, feeling, or speaking. Okay? So we talked about characters right before we went to break, and we know that characters are anything that can think. It can be an animal, a person, a monster, an alien. If it can think, it's a character. Okay, we've all seen characters in stories since we were little kids, and our grown-ups who take care of us started reading to us, or maybe when we got into pre-K or we got into kindergarten and our teachers would read to us. We've seen characters, okay? And so we know that a character is who the story is all about. But it's important to know that characters can be anything as long as they have thoughts and feelings, okay? So what we're going to focus on today is just basically describing a character and knowing the difference between inside traits and outside traits. So I have this little chant, and I can't see myself on the screen. I hope that you guys can see me. But the way we talk about characters is in 2 different things, the inside and the outside. Let's talk about the inside for just a second. The inside of a character, and you'll see it right here, are thoughts, actions, words, feelings. It says personality traits. What we learn based on what the character says, does, thinks, and feels. So I have a little motto that I like to do. So we're going to point to our head and we're saying how the character is thinking. We put our hands out to the sides, how the character is acting. We put our hand over our heart and we say how the character is feeling. And then we put a finger to our lips and push it forward and we say how the character is speaking. So we say how the character is thinking, acting, feeling, speaking. And I do all of that together because We know when we have hand movements in a chant, we remember things, right? So inside traits are going to be how the character points to your head is thinking, point out, acting to your heart, feeling to your mouth, speaking. How a character is thinking, acting, feeling, and speaking. Okay? Those are all of the things that sometimes the author tells us, but usually we're going to have to make an inference or a guess. Outside traits are what we see, okay? What they look like. It's brown hair, tall, brown eyes, boots, shorts, green shirt. Those are all the things that I can see with my eyes about this character. But that's why we talk about it being outside versus inside. So outside traits are what I can see. Inside traits I can't see. I have to dig deep and think about, well, what words did they say? Why did they say that? How are they acting? What's that tell me about how they feel? Okay? And we have to kind of dig deep and make inferences and make guesses on the inside traits. We also call these physical traits on the outside and emotional traits on the inside. Okay? So physical traits are what we look like on the outside. Blonde hair, blue eyes, brown hair. We can say that someone is beautiful, describing what they look like on the outside. Red hair, freckles. We can also describe how they think, act, feel, and speak. And we can use words like this. They were angry, they were sad, joyful, dishonest, responsible, trustworthy. So see the differences in those two words or two sides. When I'm talking about these right here, I'm talking about what they look like, things I can see with my eyes, the physical appearance. But when I use these words, I'm describing their emotions, how they are feeling, how they are acting, how they are feeling, or how they are speaking. If I said, go to your room, what could you infer? I'm angry. If I said something like, don't worry, Miss Megan, I can take care of that. How am I acting? What kind of words did I say? I'm responsible. If you see someone sitting by themselves and their head is hung down and they're kind of alone, what do you think they are? They're sad. So we use these words to describe the inside traits, how they're thinking, acting, feeling, and speaking. And then these words right here are things that we can see with our eyes. Okay, so physical, we can see with our eyes. Emotion is on the inside. We have to make guesses. Okay, so what you are going to do for me today is you are going to do a physical and emotional sort on Google Classroom. Okay, it's called Character Trait Sort. And in class, we're going to work with our partners. So my virtual kiddos, if you're at home, then what I can have you do is you can work with a sibling, you can work with a grown-up who's at home with you today, or you can work on your own. That's totally fine. And then at the end, I want you to watch the Check Your Work video to kind of make sure that you're right on the same path as me. Okay, kiddos? So when you get started, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so what you're going to do is you'll click, I'll go ahead and do this first one for us. Blonde, we've already said, right? Blonde is what we can see. When I click on it, notice that these blue lines appear. I'm going to push down with my finger, not let go, and I'm going to drag it to where I think it should be. Emotional, okay, is that the inside, or physical on the outside? So blonde would actually be physical. There are 7 in each box. Okay, kiddos? All right, go ahead and get started for me. Check back in on Check Your Work, and I cannot wait to see what you do. Thanks, kiddos.